First contact. Ambassador Lyra Telveri stood at the observation deck of the Meridian Alliance flagship Eternal Dawn, watching the blue-green planet slowly rotate below. Earth, designation Sol 3, had been a puzzle for the Alliance's xenoanthropologists for decades. While their long-range scans had detected signs of industrialization and basic spaceflight capability, the planet maintained an unusual radio silence that defied explanation. Ambassador, Captain Nex's voice came from behind her. Our preliminary scans are complete. Lyra turned to face the towering Centaurian, his crystalline skin refracting the starlight. What have you found, Captain? I don't understand it, Nex continued, his crystalline fingers gesturing at the holographic display. Their satellite network is primitive, mostly communication and weather monitoring devices. And yet, he paused, mandibles clicking in frustration. Yet what, Captain? There are gaps in our sensor readings, areas where our scans simply slide away, as if something is deflecting them. Not blocking, deflecting. I've never seen anything like it. Lyra studied the holographic representation of Earth. The Meridian Alliance had encountered thousands of pre-FTL civilizations over its long history. Some were peaceful, others hostile, but all followed predictable patterns of technological development. Earth, however, was different. What about their space presence? She asked. Minimal. A small orbital station, a few lunar outposts. Their propulsion technology appears to be purely chemical-based. Nex's tone carried a note of doubt. But Ambassador, there's something else. The lunar outposts. They're generating power readings that don't match their apparent technology level. Lyra felt a familiar tingle at the base of her spine. The same sensation she'd experienced on dozens of first-contact missions when something wasn't quite right. Prepare my shuttle, Captain. I think it's time we introduced ourselves properly. The descent to Earth was smooth, their shuttle escorted by two primitive-looking human spacecraft. As they approached the designated landing site, a facility outside a city called Geneva, Lyra noticed something odd about their escorts. Despite their outward appearance, there was a precision to their movements that suggested far more advanced control systems than should be possible with chemical propulsion. The landing pad was surrounded by a delegation of humans, some in military uniforms, others in civilian attire. At their center stood a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, her bearing marking her as their leader even before she stepped forward. Ambassador Telveri. The woman greeted her in perfect Alliance standard, causing Lyra's inner eyelids to flick in surprise. I'm Director Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Initiative. Welcome to Earth. Lyra recovered quickly from her shock. Director Chen, I'm honored. Though I must admit, I'm curious how you know our language. Sarah Chen smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. We've had a long time to prepare for this meeting, Ambassador. Perhaps we should continue this conversation inside. There's much to discuss. The facility they entered was ostensibly a diplomatic center, but Lyra's trained eye caught details that seemed out of place. The walls were too thick for a simple administrative building. The windows, though appearing to be standard glass, had the slight distortion characteristic of advanced force field interfaces. I'll be direct, Ambassador, Chen said once they were seated in a conference room. We know why the Alliance is here. You've noticed our apparent technological discrepancies, our unusual radio silence, the energy readings that don't quite add up. You're here to determine if we're a potential threat or a potential ally. You seem very well informed about our protocols, Director, Lyra said carefully. We are. Chen touched a control panel on the table, and the room's windows darkened. A holographic display materialized between them, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. Just as we're well informed about the Nexus incursion of 2187, the Helios conflict, and the current movement of the swarm at the edges of Alliance space. Lyra felt her scales tighten. None of that information should have been available to a pre-FTL civilization. How? Earth isn't what you think it is, Ambassador. We haven't been what anyone thinks we are for a very long time. Chen's expression grew serious. We maintained our primitive appearance for a reason. We've been watching, waiting, preparing. And now that you're here, we have a choice to make. What choice? Whether to trust you with the truth. Chen leaned forward. Because the real question, Ambassador Telveri, isn't why we've hidden our true capabilities. The real question is what we've been hiding from. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Chen glanced at a display on her wrist, her expression darkening. It seems our time for subtle revelations has run out. She looked up at Lyra, all pretense gone. How much does the Alliance know about the deep dark, Ambassador? Because it's about to arrive at your doorstep, and Earth may be your only hope of survival. Lyra felt a chill run through her body as she recognized the ancient term. The deep dark, a mythological horror that her people's oldest records spoke of in whispered warnings. That's impossible. The deep dark is a legend. No, Ambassador, Chen said, standing as the facility's walls began to shimmer, revealing layers of advanced technology that had been hidden beneath seemingly primitive surfaces. It's very real. And humanity. We're not Earth's inhabitants. We're its wardens, keeping watch over something far worse than anything your alliance has ever encountered. Through the transforming windows, Lyra watched as the sky above Geneva began to darken unnaturally, the stars disappearing one by one. The warning. The facility's transformation was complete in seconds. Gone was the facade of 20th century architecture, replaced by sweeping curves of advanced alloys and pulsing energy conduits. The conference room now floated in a vast command center, holographic displays showing real-time data from across the solar system. 72 hours, Chen announced, studying a cascade of incoming information. That's how long we have before it arrives. Lyra struggled to process what she was seeing. The technology surrounding her was centuries beyond anything the Alliance possessed. How long have you been hiding this? Since before your people learned to split the atom. Chen gestured, and a new hologram appeared, a historical recording. It showed Earth, but different, younger. A massive crater dominated one hemisphere, its edges glowing with otherworldly energy. 10,000 years ago, something fell from the stars. Something old. Something hungry. The recording shifted, showing creatures that made Lyra's ancestral memories scream in terror. Living darkness, moving with impossible geometry, devouring everything in their path. Then came the light. A blinding flash, and the creatures were gone, trapped beneath miles of rock and the most advanced containment system ever created. We weren't ready, Chen continued. Our civilization was young, barely out of the Stone Age. But we had something the entity didn't expect. Potential. It tried to consume us, but instead we learned. We adapted. Every piece of technology we developed afterward had a single purpose, to ensure that what lies beneath stays there. Captain Nex, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. The power readings from your lunar bases, weapon platforms, Chen corrected, part of a defense grid that extends throughout the solar system. The primitive satellites your sensors detected are just camouflage. The real network exists in subspace, powered by energy drawn from the quantum fabric of space itself. More alarms sounded. The holographic display shifted to show the outer solar system. Something was moving through the Kuiper Belt, leaving a trail of destroyed matter in its wake. Not a ship, not in any conventional sense, but a tear in reality itself. The deep dark isn't just coming for Earth, Chen explained, her voice grave. It's coming for everything. What we trapped was just a fragment, a scout. The main body has been traveling for millennia, consuming civilizations, breaking down the barriers between dimensions. Your alliance territories are directly in its path. Lyra felt her diplomatic training crumble in the face of existential terror. Why tell us this now? Why not reach out to the alliance before? Because we needed to know if you could be trusted. Every species that discovered our secret either tried to steal our technology or attempted to destroy us out of fear. But you, Ambassador Telveri, you came seeking understanding. The lights dimmed as a new hologram appeared, a real-time visualization of Earth's defensive capabilities. Layers upon layers of energy fields, quantum barriers, and weapons that defied conventional physics surrounded the planet. Beneath the surface, vast machines maintained a containment field around something that Lyra's sensors couldn't even process. "We're not asking for your help to protect Earth," Chen said, straightening her uniform. "We're offering our help to protect the galaxy. The Alliance has the numbers, the territory, the resources we need. We have the technology and experience. Apart, we'll fall. Together, we might have a chance." "Might?" Nex asked. "There are no guarantees when facing the void between realities, Captain." Chen's wrist display chimed, and her expression hardened. "We've just lost contact with our outer system sensors. It's moving faster than predicted." The command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers relayed orders and systems powered up. Through the enhanced windows, Lyra could see the sky rippling as layer after layer of defensive shields activated. "Make your decision quickly, Ambassador," Chen said, already moving toward an elevated command platform. "Humanity has stood guard for 10,000 years, but this enemy brings the darkness between stars with it. We need your answer now. Will the Alliance stand with Earth, or will you run and face the deep dark alone?" Before Lyra could respond, every screen in the command center flashed red. A voice echoed through the facility, carrying the weight of ancient authority. "Protocol Omega activated. The prisoner stirs." The darkness between. The floor beneath them trembled, not from any external attack, but from something deep below. Chen's hands flew across holographic controls as she ascended the command platform. "Status report on containment. Primary barriers holding at 80%. An officer called out. "The prisoner is responding to its Candrid's approach. Quantum resonance increasing." Lyra watched as new displays materialized, showing a three-dimensional cross-section of Earth's crust. Nearly 40 miles beneath their feet, something moved within layers of containment fields. Its form defied comprehension. Geometries that shouldn't exist, patterns that hurt to look at. "What you're seeing," Chen explained, her voice tight with concentration, "is why humanity abandoned its own technological evolution to become guardians. The fragment, as we call it, is a piece of something older than time itself, an entity that existed in the void before the universe began, and wants nothing more than to unmake everything we know." Captain Nex stepped closer to the display, his crystalline form reflecting the chaotic energies shown in the hologram. "The deep dark, it's the rest of this being. Yes, when it first arrived, it tried to devour our world, our reality. Instead, our ancestors, through means we still don't fully understand, managed to trap a piece of it. That piece became our prisoner and our greatest teacher." Chen's fingers danced across the controls, adjusting power flows to the containment system. "Everything we know about quantum mechanics, dimensional engineering, even faster than light travel, we learned by studying our prisoner. But that knowledge came with a price." The main display shifted to show the approaching entity. It had passed Neptune's orbit now, leaving a wake of distorted space-time behind it. Where it passed, the normal physics of the universe simply ceased to function. "We knew this day would come," Chen continued. "The fragment has been calling to its whole since the moment of its imprisonment. That's why we built all of this." She gestured to encompass not just the command center, but Earth's entire defense network. "Every satellite you detected, every lunar base, every piece of primitive technology we allowed you to see, they're all part of a vast weapon system designed for one purpose. To destroy the deep dark?" Lyra asked. Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No one can destroy it, Ambassador. It exists partly outside our reality. The best we can do is force it back into the void between universes. But to do that," she paused, looking troubled. "To do that," a new voice interjected, "we must use the fragment against its whole. An elderly man in a simple gray uniform had appeared on the command platform. The way other officers deferred to him suggested high rank, but he wore no insignia. "Admiral Drake," Chen acknowledged with a nod. "I was just explaining our situation to the ambassador." "There's no time for lengthy explanations anymore," Drake said, his weathered face grave. "The deep dark is accelerating. Impact in 48 hours. He turned to Lyra. "Ambassador, we need the Alliance fleet's help, not to fight the entity directly. That would be suicide. But to help coordinate the largest correlation engine ever attempted." "Correlation engine?" Nex asked. "A quantum device," Chen explained. "It will use your ship's combined processing power to calculate the exact resonance frequency needed to." She was cut off as every alarm in the facility suddenly screamed to life. "The prisoner," someone shouted. "It's breaking containment." Deep beneath them, something that should not exist began to wake up. Through layers of rock and energy fields, its consciousness reached out, touching minds, searching. Lyra gasped as alien thoughts brushed against her own. Images of the void between galaxies, of spaces where reality itself broke down, of hunger older than stars. "Full power to the containment grid," Drake ordered. "Initiate Protocol Omega-7." The facility's lights dimmed as power was diverted to the containment systems. Through the windows, Lyra could see darkness spreading across the sky. Not the natural darkness of night, but something deeper, something wrong. Stars weren't just disappearing now. They were being unmade. "Ambassador," Chen said urgently, "we need your answer. Once the correlation engine begins spinning up, we won't have another chance. Will the Alliance help us?" Before Lyra could respond, Captain Nex stepped forward. "The Alliance Charter is clear. We defend against threats to galactic civilization." He paused, mandibles clicking. "I don't think the Founders imagined anything like this, but the principle stands. My ship and crew are at your disposal." Lyra nodded, finding her voice despite the terror clawing at her mind. "Send the call to the Alliance fleet. All ships, all resources, everything we have." She turned to Chen. "Now tell us what you need us to do." "We need your ships in a very specific formation," Chen said, bringing up a new hologram. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before. We're going to use your fleet as the framework for a device that will briefly fold spacetime itself." She looked at each of them in turn. "I should warn you. The mortality rate for this plan, even if it succeeds, is estimated at 60%. And if we do nothing?" Lyra asked, already knowing the answer. "Then reality as we know it ends," Drake said simply. "The deep dark will consume this universe and move on to the next, as it has done countless times before." Above them, through gaps in the unnatural darkness, they could see Alliance ships beginning to arrive in Earth orbit. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Humanity's hidden defenses rose to meet them, revealing their true forms at last. The final battle for existence itself was about to begin. The stand. The combined fleet hung in Earth orbit like a constellation of artificial stars. 5,000 Alliance vessels arranged in a complex geometric pattern, interconnected by shimmering streams of quantum energy. Between them, Earth's hidden defense platforms had shed their primitive disguises, revealing sleek structures of impossible technology that bent light around their true forms. "Correlation engine at 70% synchronization," an officer announced. "Alliance ships are maintaining position within acceptable parameters." Chen stood at the center of the command platform, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching horror. The deep dark had passed Mars now, its presence causing the red planet's orbit to decay. Reality itself seemed to fray around its edges. "We're only going to get one shot at this," Drake said, studying the tactical displays. "The moment we initiate the correlation sequence, both the fragment and the deep dark will realize what we're attempting." Lyra, who had refused to return to her ship, watched as the massive quantum network took shape. "What exactly are we attempting, Admiral?" "Something that should be impossible," he replied. We're going to use your fleet as a framework to create a quantum resonance field, synchronized with the fragment's own dimensional frequency. Then we'll. He was cut off as every sensor in the system suddenly screamed in alarm. The deep dark had accelerated, crossing the distance from Mars to Earth in seconds. As it approached, Lyra finally saw its true form through the facility's enhanced windows. It was vastness given form, darkness given purpose. Where it passed, space itself seemed to crumple like paper in a flame. Stars didn't merely disappear into it. They'd never existed in the regions it touched. Reality rewrote itself around its presence, trying to accommodate something that should not be. Correlation engine at 90%. The officer's voice was steady despite the existential terror pressing against everyone's minds. But the fragment is becoming unstable. Deep beneath them, the piece of cosmic horror that humanity had imprisoned for 10 millennia began to resonate with its approaching whole. The ground shook as containment systems strained to hold back something that existed in more dimensions than human senses could process. Route all power to the containment grid, Chen ordered. We need to hold it just a little longer. Through the quantum network, Lyra could feel the Alliance ships straining to maintain their positions. The deep dark's presence was affecting their systems, causing quantum fluctuations that threatened to tear the correlation engine apart before it could activate. Look, Captain Nex pointed to the main display. Around the edges of the deep dark's form, space itself was beginning to fold. The entity was preparing to breach the dimensional barriers, to bring through something even worse than itself. Now, Drake commanded, initiate final sequence. Chen's hands flew across the controls. To all Alliance ships, power surge in 3, 2, 1. The quantum network blazed to life. Every ship in the fleet channeled its entire energy reserve into the correlation engine. The geometric pattern they formed began to spin, not in normal space, but in dimensions only visible through the facility's advanced sensors. And deep below, the fragment responded. The containment system screamed as the imprisoned piece of cosmic horror resonated with the engine's frequency. For a moment, Lyra glimpsed what it truly was, a concept given form, an idea that predated thought itself, a hunger that existed before there was anything to devour. Containment failing. The officer's voice cracked. The fragment is breaching. That's what we wanted, Drake said grimly. Initiate Protocol Omega Final. Chen looked at him sharply. Sir, that protocol was theoretical. We never tested. We don't have a choice. Drake placed his hand on a control panel that seemed to exist slightly out of phase with reality. May whatever gods exist forgive us. The correlation engine reached full power. The fragment broke free of its prison, and humanity revealed its true plan, not to contain the horror, but to use it as a weapon against its own whole. The fragment, guided by 10,000 years of careful study and preparation, shot upward through the Earth's crust. But instead of joining with the deep dark, it flew into the heart of the correlation engine's quantum network. All ships, brace for dimensional shift. Chen's voice carried across all frequencies. This is going to get strange. Reality held its breath as ancient horror met quantum engineering. The fragment, bound by human technology and Alliance power, became the key to something unprecedented, a lock for the doors of existence itself. The deep dark reacted, finally understanding what its jailers had planned. It tried to pull back, to retreat to the void between universes. But it was too late. The correlation engine activated its final sequence, using the fragment as a template to rewrite the local laws of physics themselves. Space began to fold in ways that even the cosmic horror could not escape. And that's when everything went wrong. Dawn's light. The fragment, instead of becoming the anchor they'd planned, began to resonate at frequencies that threatened to tear apart the fabric of space-time. The correlation engine's carefully calculated patterns started to dissolve as reality itself rebelled against what they were attempting. The network is collapsing. Chen's hands moved desperately across the controls. We're losing containment across all dimensional layers. Through the facility's windows, Lyra watched in horror as Alliance ships began to break formation, their hulls warping under forces that shouldn't exist in normal space. The deep dark seized the opportunity, sending tendrils of void stuff through the gaps in their defense. "No," Drake said quietly, watching the disaster unfold. "No, this is exactly what we expected." Chen turned to him sharply. "Sir, humanity's greatest strength," Drake said, his hand hovering over a final set of controls, "has never been our technology, our adaptability, or even our determination. It's our capacity for sacrifice." Understanding dawned on Chen's face. The Omega Protocol. It was never about containing the deep dark, was it? "The correlation engine isn't failing," Drake confirmed. "It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, creating a dimensional resonance so powerful that it will drag everything within its range into a pocket universe, including Earth." Lyra's inner eyelids flickered in shock. "You're going to sacrifice your entire world. We're going to finish what our ancestors started 10,000 years ago." Drake's voice carried the weight of millennia of preparation. The fragment wasn't just a prisoner. It was a blueprint. Every generation of humanity has added to our understanding of it, building toward this moment. The facility shuddered as reality began to tear around them. Through the quantum network, Lyra could feel the panic from the Alliance ships as their crews realized they were being pulled into something beyond their comprehension. "All Alliance vessels, full power to your engines," Chen commanded. "Break free of the quantum tethers now." But the correlation engine, next started, was never meant to trap the deep dark, Chen finished. It was meant to create a space outside of normal reality, a prison built from the very fabric of existence. "But it needs wardens." Drake nodded solemnly. "Humanity's final duty. We will hold this horror in a bubble of frozen time, in a place where the laws of physics themselves will keep it contained. Forever." The deep dark seemed to sense their intention. It tried to retreat, but the fragment's resonance had already entangled it too deeply with the correlation engine's field. Around Earth, space itself began to fold inward, creating a boundary between normal reality and something else. "Ambassador," Chen said urgently, "you need to go. Take the knowledge of what happened here. Make sure the galaxy understands the price that was paid." Lyra felt herself being pulled toward the shuttle bay by Nex's strong grip. Through the windows, she watched as Earth's surface began to shimmer with impossible energies. The correlation engine's quantum field was collapsing inward, taking the planet, the fragment, and the deep dark with it. The last thing she saw before her shuttle launched was Drake and Chen, standing calmly at their posts as reality twisted around them. On every channel, a final message broadcast from Earth: "To all species of the galaxy, we were never your defenders. We were never your guardians. We were the wardens of a prison that could only be sealed from within. The sacrifice was always meant to be ours. Remember us not as heroes, but as those who did what was necessary. The darkness between stars will trouble you no more." From the safety of the eternal dawn, Lyra watched as Earth vanished, not in an explosion or collapse, but in a gentle fold of space-time that smoothed itself out like ripples in a pond. Where a living world had been, now there was nothing but peaceful, empty space. The deep dark was gone. The fragment was gone. And with them, humanity had taken their final bow from the cosmic stage. Years later, in the great archive of the Alliance, there stands a simple monument. It shows a hologram of Earth as it once was, blue and beautiful against the black of space. Beneath it, a plaque reads, "Here marks the memory of humanity, who guarded us from horrors we never knew existed. They did not merely give their lives, they gave their entire existence, their past and their future, to keep the universe safe. In doing so, they proved that the greatest force in all of reality is not cosmic horror or quantum science, but the willingness of one species to stand eternal watch against the dark. And in the very deepest parts of reality, in a place where time has no meaning and space folds in on itself eternally, a planet called Earth still orbits a yellow star. There, Generation after generation of humans maintain their vigil, watching over a prisoner that can never escape, in a trap that can never break. They are there still, holding the line between light and dark, between existence and void, between what is and what must never be again. The Wardens of Infinity, standing their eternal watch.